Welcome to the NFLMAX, the radio show inspired by the league, founded in 1998, bringing you 20-plus years of fantasy football experience. Broadcasting from our brains to your earbuds as we break down player profiles for your teams in Dynasty. You can check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and Facebook. Or you can watch the show on YouTube at youtube.com/NFLMAX for your weekly Max fix. And we are back fixing some technical difficulties, broadcasting in high def tonight with Nick's new Cat 5 cable. As always, Ewok Juggernaut here with the hot pineapples. Nick, what's going on, man?
Back with some Gentleman's Jack and feeling good. Finally got everything working and ready for a good show. Yeah,
this weekend was the final episode of Game of Thrones. I know you're not a fan, but I have been waiting since 2016 for this show to end. And I got the bottle here. You could only see it on YouTube. The Game of Thrones wine bottle. And there it is there. 2016. Finally cracked it open last night with some friends, watched the episode. And, it is what it is. It's over. I'm glad it's over. Happy about some things, but unhappy about others. But
yeah, I actually like I said, I've never watched Game of Thrones personally, but a lot of my friends were very upset with the finale. I don't know. I know when I watched Breaking Bad, I was very upset with the finale, and that wasn't like maybe common opinion across, but this seems pretty. I mean, I've seen one or two people come on and defend it, but this seems pretty unanimous that it was a poor ending to the show.
Yeah, I loved Breaking Bad. I burned through those binge watching all those seasons. It only took me like a few weeks to burn through all those seasons. But last night's episode, it brought closure. Spoiler alert. If you're listening to this, you didn't see it yet, pause it and, shut the show off. But Jon Snow kills Daenerys, as we all know. I mean, we all knew it was coming. I don't think it was that big of a shock, but that was something that we were hoping would happen. And some other things that happened, I don't know. I feel like the whole show was rushed, and that was pretty much the consensus by everybody on Twitter. It was going crazy. But nonetheless, Game of Thrones is finally over, and nobody gets to sit on the Iron Throne. So after 8 seasons, who's going to sit on the Iron Throne? Nobody gets to sit on the Iron Throne. So, but let's just touch on some news here before we get into the show. We didn't get to record last week. Like I said, we had some issues with microphones and stuff, but Doug Baldwin retired last week. And I know Nick, is a big fan. I just wanted to give him the stage here. If you had any final thoughts about Doug Baldwin's retirement, and, we'll send him off here, and we'll send him off along with his mediocre fantasy football career. So,
yeah, I mean, you say mediocre, but I mean, what Doug Baldwin was able to accomplish as an undrafted free agent is a huge historical outlier. And by all accounts, he's a great teammate, a great guy, a great leader. He fought for everything that he got, and just a very refined route runner. Played football the right way. And even off the field, you never had an issue with him. And so Doug Baldwin, cheers to you. That's one of the kind of guys that you want to root for, just to make it in the NFL in general, fantasy aside. But what he provided for fantasy owners, what you might call mediocre, but I think it was a very steady floor. Some back end wide receiver 1, upper tier wide receiver 2 numbers. I mean, he was a guy that you could plug and play with confidence, and you knew you weren't going to get a 0. He probably wouldn't win you a week, maybe a couple here or there, but over the years. But I mean, a guy that you knew would be above replacement level. And, so to Doug Baldwin, best of luck with everything. And if you didn't get a chance to read his retirement thread, he went back and wrote a letter to his younger self. It was awesome. Amazing job with it. And, it's sad to see him go at such, in relative speaking, young age. But I mean, he definitely had a good and fruitful football career. And, I wish the best for him in the future. So, Doug, to being a gentleman, here's a sip and a little bit of gentleman's jack for you, sir.
Yeah, you might as well pour one out. I mean, aside from his 1 year in 2015 where he scored 14 touchdowns, he was the definition of fantasy football mediocrity, if we're talking fantasy football. But Doug Baldwin. Anyway, moving on to the news of the day. Today, Zeke Elliot is in the news again, and I don't know what to say about this. Reports are here that he was handcuffed and detained by police in Las Vegas over the weekend. He was not arrested. Thank God for that, because I've got my shares of Zeke Elliott in multiple leagues. But, here we go again. It's the summertime. There's nothing going on. And either somebody's getting a torn ACL like Reuben Foster also today, or someone's getting caught and getting in trouble. And the dog days of summer. But here we are. Now, Zeke Elliott is going to get paid very soon. And I believe his 5th-year option is this after the season's over. So Zeke, he's got to play nice the rest of this year and not get in trouble. And you're a Cowboys fan. So, I mean, a quick take here on what happened today.
Yeah, it's interesting because he, a tweet and a news story came out about three hours before the story gets released about Zeke talking about how he's matured off the field and how important that is to his career. And then 3 hours later, this drops. But really, I mean, this is, from a football perspective, not a non-issue. If you saw the video, I mean, barely touches is doing it justification. I mean, he barely touches this guy. He flops, like LeBron James in the finals. But
100%.
I mean, apart from that, this is, as a fantasy owner, just your yearly reminder that his career could be over at any instant. I mean, I love Zeke as much as the next guy. I'm a huge Cowboy fan. I love what he brings to the football field. But, I mean, he's proven time and time again that, his nose is in and around some trouble constantly. And even when he has a long stretch that he stays clean, he manages at least once a year to pop back up on the radar. So we were talking about Tyreek Hill a while back, and just as a dynasty owner, what it means to, account for the type of person that you're bringing onto your roster. And this is just your yearly reminder that, again, NFL careers are short, they're sweet, but they can come to a bitter ending. So just, be mindful as you roster and, build out your portfolio. Usually I'm the type of guy who has a very small subset of players, and I'll have very high percentages across my rosters. As much as I love Zeke, that's not the type of player that I carry heavy percentages in. I'm not saying I have no Zeke, but that's not a player that I'll be heavily invested in, just in case it does take a turn south.
Yeah, I'll be watching carefully. I mean, you take a look at this running back list from just a few years ago in 2017, and, you got Todd Gurley with his knee issue, Le'Veon Bell and the Jets, and the drama that's going on.
Yeah, what a mess.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt's out of football. I'm just going down the running back list from 2017. Zeke Elliott, God forbid he gets in trouble again. Mark Ingram, LaShawn McCoy. It's like, just like that in an instant, a running back's fantasy life can be over or like on the massive decline. It's just scary. But
yeah, and that's the thing too. You look at the list now, and I mean, how many landing spots were there? Like potential landing spots that were like really juicy. It was like Kansas City, Philly, Oakland, and Tampa Bay. I mean, and that's the thing about the running back position is even when you run down that list of the top guys from 2017, just a couple years ago, you're sitting here in 2019, 2 years later, and there's still a ton of talent where, it is hard to make a way in the NFL right now. And that's why this, 19 class is really come out with just Josh Jacobs as a surefire starter. And it's because there's so much talent at the position that people are just getting squeezed out. Even guys like Damian Harris, Alexander Madison, talented guys, don't have a place as starters in the NFL because there's so much talent. So it just is a yearly reminder about the running back position. Like you're saying, the attrition is high, but there's so much talent out there that, the supply and demand don't match up. And just wait until 2022. I mean, you're going to see a whole new crop of talented backs come in. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the running back position. The Jets really made a mistake paying Lev. I'm waiting to see what the Cowboys do, honestly, with Zeke. They've been so masterful with their cap situation that, they can afford to extend their guys. And that's the way that that's their team building philosophy. But I can't imagine paying him substantial amount when you look at what happened with the Rams and the contract they just gave Gurley. And
yeah,
it's interesting.
It was literally like the next year after they paid Gurley. I mean, John Clayton came out yesterday. Did you hear that he was talking about the Jets, and he was talking about how he thinks they're going to trade Le'Veon Bell before the season. It's like they just signed him.
Yeah, and they're going to eat all that money. I mean, that would just the ineptitude of New York sports in general. Don't even get me started because I can go into the Mets right now. I'm on fire about the Mets. But, I mean, the Jets, the Giants, the Mets, the Knicks, it's just it's awful. The Islanders are your bright spot. The Islanders and, of course, the Yankees, whatever. They don't count because they're always, the Yankees. But, I mean, this is New York sports. It's just shambles right now.
Yeah, I live here. You used to live here, so but it is what it is. So moving on. So for tonight's show, we're going to talk about rookie ADP. We both had a bunch of drafts, rookie drafts, that is, over the past few weeks. And we noticed a few strange outliers, some players that were getting drafted way above ADP and some players that were falling. So I figure we just touch on some guys that are rising and falling right now. And we're in, middle of May. And, I'll have more rookie drafts as we go through May and June. So it was just very interesting to see where some of these players were taken. Let's talk about Darrell Henderson. Current ADP is early second round in your rookie drafts. And I saw him go towards the back end of the first round. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this because, Darrell Henderson, we both loved him. He's one of my favorite rookie running backs for this year. But I think the general consensus in the fantasy community is that the sky's falling with Todd Gurley. And we're looking at a situation here where, Gurley's going to be done. And that's the fear here, that Gurley's career is going to be over. And I was thinking about it this week, and I'm saying to myself, we've kind of seen this played out before, take away the knee injury. And I can recall, we had LaDainian Tomlinson in the prime of his career, because Gurley's in the prime of his career right now. He's not even 25. I think he's 24 and a half. But in the prime of Tomlinson's career, the Chargers drafted Michael Turner, and, he was all the buzz that year. And Turner didn't do anything until he pretty much left the Chargers. And that was following Tomlinson's year where he had, it was like 100 receptions. I think he had like 140 targets. And they totally overworked him in the offense, which was great for fantasy. If you had Tomlinson in, I believe it was like 2004, I'll pull it up real quick. He won you championships hands down. It was 2003. He had 100 receptions, 725 receiving yards, 1,600 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns.
It's a beast.
Tomlinson. So you fast forward to, current day, and, Todd Gurley is, our version of that. He's a running back one, top three guy prior to this knee injury. And really it's just, from what the reports are, it's arthritis of the knee. And you do research on these players, and multiple players will come out and talk about it and say, like, mostly everybody in the NFL has some type of arthritic issue in their joints, whether it's their knees or their elbows or whatever. And I know Reggie Bush was talking about it last week on NFL Network. And he was kind of like saying it wasn't that big of a deal. But in the dynasty community, this is a major issue for Todd Gurley. And, the sky's falling apparently for Todd Gurley. And I just wanted to pump the brakes on this because I've got Gurley in a few leagues. I know, Nick, you do as well. So I wanted to pump the brakes on this injury and, the alleged death of Todd Gurley's fantasy career, and just remind everybody that we saw this happen before when the Chargers drafted Michael Turner, and everybody thought that LaDainian Tomlinson was going to, lose carries and lose receptions. But Michael Turner didn't do anything with the Chargers of any relevance until he left the Chargers. So, listen, I love Darrell Henderson. Are they going to work him into the offense? Yes. But, on the outside chance that Todd Gurley is still Todd Gurley and his knees are going to hold up, I don't think the sky is falling. And I think that if you're taking Darrell Henderson in the middle of the first round in your rookie drafts and you're looking for immediate production right away, I think you're going to be disappointed because, best case scenario, you're looking at a Tevin Coleman of a couple of years ago. Worst case scenario, Michael Turner with the Chargers, where he didn't do anything. So what are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, look, here's where I'm at. Like you're saying, it's not the death of Todd Gurley. I think, him going in the later first half of round one is probably a taste of preference. Pre-draft, a lot of people were really high on Henderson, us included. I really liked Henderson. I didn't like him that high, but I did like him nonetheless. And, it's undeniable. He goes to a system that's, very desirable. He's in a situation where if Gurley were to go down, it's very desirable. But I don't think it's the death of Todd Gurley. I do think that he's going to have some standalone value. I do think he'll be a part of this offense. I do think that they're going to try to, save some of the tread on Gurley's tires, so to speak, especially since they paid him all that money. I think that they want, a way to kind of ease back his workload. They really, really worked him in 2 years. And, I think McVay may be coming to his senses that, there's other players that can fit your scheme. And maybe he's coming around to the fact that that running back is loaded with talent and there is replaceable. Now, I'm not saying Darrell Henderson is Todd Gurley. That's blasphemous. But, this is not the death of Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley does need to, kind of give up the load a little bit, so to speak. And I think Darrell Henderson's the perfect person for this scheme. I think he will hold standalone value. With that being said, where I'm at with Todd Gurley right now is, I've seen some trades that are outlandishly low, people freaking out. So I'm buying there. When it comes to startups, I'm out right now for the price that you'd have to pay. It's just too much risk.
He's going in late second round startups.
I know. And you know what? You really can't miss on your core. And as much as I love Todd Gurley, and I don't believe he's done, when I do a startup draft, my main goal is to hit on 6 out of my 7 picks in my first 7 rounds. Whether that means trading back and accumulating picks in 3 and 4, making sure I hit. There's all different approaches to startup drafts, but you really have to make sure that you build out that core. And as much as I don't think Gurley is done, it's also a very risky move at this point.
You think it's risky at late second round?
If it's late second round, I'm starting to think about it. But mid to early second round, I'm out. I think there's other guys there in that zone that I could pick up. And just by nature, if I'm not in the first, 4 picks anyway, if I'm not in the, Barkley, CMC, Zeke, Kamara range, then I'm probably bowing out on running back anyway and building out my wide receiver core and just going volume running back. That's just a personal philosophy for me anyway. So I'm not typically staring at running backs in that back half of the second round. I think Gurley, I think people are devaluing him, but it is kind of a gray area right now. I do think that they're going to hold him back a little bit. He's not going to be the same Todd Gurley that you've seen. I don't expect him to have a season like LaDainian did when Michael Turner came in. I respect pumping the brakes, but I don't think, he's going to do that. I think that they recognize that they need to save the tread. They just invested a ton of money in a running back in a position across the NFL that's highly devalued right now. There's running back talent sitting on the streets that, it's wild, just waiting for an injury to strike. And, you're paying Todd Gurley a ton of money. You can't afford to have him hurt and that be a waste, because then you're behind the 8 ball in respects to the rest of the league. And, I think they recognize that. And I'm not out on Todd Gurley by any stretch. I'm still looking to buy him. I'm kicking the tires in existing leagues. I'm just saying, as far as the startup goes, I'm out. As far as Darrell Henderson goes at the back end of the first round, I think Damian Harris has more upside. I think there's a better shot that Damian Harris takes a starting role than Henderson has of overtaking Gurley. I just don't see, and this is the tempered upside, and people chasing a situation like, what if Gurley is done? Gurley's not done. That's the fact of the matter. They're going to pull back the reins, but he's not done. And so the chances that Henderson overtakes Gurley for that starting role is much slimmer than Damian Harris taking the starting role from Sony Michel.
Well, I'm still taking Darrell Henderson over Damian Harris. I love Damian Harris, but I'm still, because I think Darrell Henderson's A, the better back, B, way better situation, and C, you're still in a PPR format. You're still going to get, that satellite type role, those points out of Darrell Henderson, where Damian Harris, I don't think you'll see any kind of production immediately unless Sony Michel, takes a hit.
And see, I 100% disagree. I think it's going to be a timeshare, not from the get-go. I think it'll be a timeshare pretty early, and they'll, phase towards Sony Michel as they get closer to the playoffs. Weeks 15, 16, 17, you'll really see Sony start to, pick up that workload like he did last year. I think it could be Damian Harris, Sony Michel split early in the year. That might be a little hot takey. I don't think people see that upside. I think people are expecting Sony Michel to carry the load in the beginning and it potentially turn to a timeshare at that point. I think the opposite. I think they're going to try to do the same thing and limit the tread on Sony's tires like they did last year, ease him into action, and then at the end of the year, boom, hammer him full force and ride him through the playoffs for that last little window. And this could be the end, not the end of Sony Michel, but the last time we really see him tote the load.
Yeah. From what I saw last year of Sony Michel, I was very disappointed, especially looking back at his collegiate tape, which I was a fan of. And I was not impressed with his New England tape. But, let's move on here with the rookie. So moving on from Darrell Henderson, was there any other rookie like around where Darrell Henderson is going now, like around that 110 spot that you wanted to talk about? Because I see a few players here, but.
Yeah, it's such a weird zone this year, right? Like if you're in from like 8 to 12, I'm trying so hard to get out. I have just philosophically, I love Noah Fant, and I like Kyler and his upside significantly, considering that offensive scheme. And just to take a time out for a second, just to touch on Kyler Murray, because he's one of the guys that I want to talk about in this zone. The air raid offense under Kingsbury at Texas Tech never ranked lower than 7th in 6 straight years in pass attempts. And that's out of college. That's 100 plus teams. If you ranked 7th out of 32 in the NFL for 6 straight years in pass attempts, that would be fantastic. We would be jumping for joy because, attempts yields production. And that's his rank in college year after year. Now he gets his guy. He drafts a ton of wide receivers in Butler, in Isabella, in Johnson. And, they just drafted Kirk. They still have Fitz. They still have Chad Williams. They still have Trent Sherfield. They have loads of talent. They go out and they sign Kevin White. They have loads of talent at the wide receiver position. Man, it's wheels up for Kyler. And I struggle to draft a quarterback in round 1, and I'm sticking to my guns on that. But I picked up 2 shares of him in the early 2nd round in the last 2 drafts that I was in. And I really like playing the upside there, even in one quarterback leagues.
He's going in 1 quarterback leagues. He's going 105.
Yeah.
In your rookie drafts. That says a lot because I think we both agree on the tier break here. So you've got your top 3. It's unanimous. It's Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and N'Keal Harry in any type of order. For the most part, it's Josh Jacobs 101. And then for me, there's a tier break. And then I think it's right there where you're going to see like Metcalf and Paris Campbell go off the board. And then, that's where Murray's going to go. Like that's where he's going now on MFL. So I think that's an indicator that after those top 3 guys and throw in, Metcalf and maybe another wide receiver, that all the other wide receivers are kind of so similar. And there's so many of them that if you really want to take a big swing and get that upside at quarterback. I think that's why he's going so early at 105, because normally you don't see quarterbacks go in the top half of the first round.
I can't get there. I can't justify that. Now, if he falls to me in the second round, that's a different conversation because he really is a game changer, right? Like at the position, in order to draft a quarterback in a one quarterback league, I really need to see upside and I need to see game changing ability. Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, even, I've seen, Stidham go in a one quarterback league. Those are not guys that I'm wasting a roster spot on. I would rather take back end of my roster and draft a running back. So the only quarterback that's on my board, and I really liked Haskins, and I still like Haskins a lot in two quarterback leagues, super flex. And obviously, he goes first round in those things. And sometimes so does Daniel Jones, even early second round. But for one quarterback league, the only quarterback on my board is Kyler Murray, because I really believe that, tied to Cliff Kingsbury, regardless of what you think about that coaching hire, the amount of volume and pass attempts that he's going to have can really yield game-changing production. And, over the course of a year can win you a week and add one win to your record.
Yeah, and you're not even mentioning the rushing yards that's going to come with Kyler Murray. So, like, you got the rushing upside plus the passing attack, plus his coach, has been waiting for him all these years. And, last year, so I was taking Lamar Jackson in the top half of the second round last year. And in one league, I got him at the 112. So the last pick in the first round, but I was targeting him, first half of the second round. And the reason why was because of the rushing yards. So like, it's a similar thing with Kyler Murray, but he's in a way juicier situation. So, just imagine Lamar Jackson, his wheels, but him being able to throw the ball the way Kyler Murray can and chuck it. So I see it. I get it. I get why he's going so early, but I agree with you. I'm not pulling the trigger. If I had the 105, I'm not taking Kyler Murray. I wouldn't take him anywhere close to that pick. If he falls to maybe 112, 201, 202, somewhere around there, I would think about it depending on who's off the board, because there's a lot of guys here that are going high, like David Montgomery at 104. That I want nothing to do with David Montgomery and the running back in Buffalo. So, if those guys are off the board and pushing other players down to me, I'm taking those players over Kyler Murray. So,
and let's parlay this into, another discussion here. One guy rising up my board, there's actually two, are DK Metcalf, because the more, I look at the situation he's in and tied to Russell Wilson and, the straight beast of metrics that he is, I think people are overly ignoring his neck injury and how serious that is. But the upside and the game-changing ability that he possesses is something that I'm willing to take a risk on in that mid-first round, because I don't see it in anyone else. 100%. A.J. Brown doesn't possess that. David Montgomery doesn't possess that. Paris Campbell, maybe a shade of it, but I think that's a lot of projection. Like the metrics and the profile don't back that.
Wait, hold on. They don't back that for Paris Campbell?
Yeah.
Oh no. His metrics are through the roof.
I'm talking from a production standpoint.
Oh, well, he did well in college here.
I mean, he did well, yes. I'm not saying he's unjustified. I'm just saying they don't back up that boom bust upside that you see with a guy like Metcalf. Like size combo with his athleticism, he's a great athlete. I'm not taking away from him, but with his size speed combo plus his production profile, I don't see the massive upside that I see with DK. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I trust me, I'm on board with Paris Campbell as a late first round pick. If I'm sitting in that zone, I'm not taking Hardman over him. I'm not taking Deebo Samuel over him. I'm not taking, AJ Brown over him even. I'm taking Paris Campbell ahead of AJ Brown, and I loved AJ Brown. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't see the upside that DK possesses with any of the other players.
So where are you ranking DK and Paris? Because for me, I've got N'Keal Harry in his own tier, and then I've got DK, Paris Campbell, AJ Brown, J Jaw, and Deebo in their own tier. And I honestly, I love DK now with the situation in Seattle. So I'm after Harry's off the board, I'm probably taking DK Metcalf next. And then I'm probably taking Paris Campbell as my third wide receiver. And then I guess AJ Brown and J Jaw. So, but it's tough for me between those two because they're both really not going to see much production this year, and you got to wait. But Paris Campbell and DK, you're going to see immediate production, especially with like TY. TY's been, banged around the past couple of years. He's not 100%, and he's getting older anyway. He's going to be 30. So
I'm not as high on Paris. I'm not. I would say my first tier is Harry by himself. My second tier would be DK by himself. My third tier is AJ Brown and Marquise Brown. And that was the other guy I wanted to talk about was Marquise Brown, but we'll get to that in a second. So they comprise my third tier. And then after that, I have Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella, and J Jaw in a tier together.
And Hardman's below that?
Yes, Hardman's below that with Deebo Samuel.
Because that's the next guy who's shooting off draft boards. And we saw him go, man, it was like 107. Where was it here? I'm pulling it up. Bottom half of the first, 111.
And people, I've not routinely seen him there. He's been one of those guys that has a wide range of outcomes. He could go mid first, he could go mid second, or anywhere in between. But I can't help but think people are chasing this. And, I'm not an advocate of Tyreek Hill, the person at all, but no news is good news. And, ever since the video recording came out, we haven't heard a peep about it. And so, I'm not rooting for him by any stretch of the imagination. I want to get that across. I don't think, based on all the evidence we have, I don't know him as a person. I'm not here to judge. My job is to just talk fantasy football. But from all accounts, he's not a good person. And obviously what he did, in college speaks to that. And so that aside, I'm not rooting for him to get back in the NFL, but no news is good news. And, I don't know at this point, what kind of evidence and the NFL can do what the NFL wants to do. If they're after you, they're after you. Same way with Zeke and the Cowboys. I don't know that he gets more than 6 games. I really don't. I think he falls in the 6 to 10 game, and you're going to look back on this class and, you're going to see that you took Hardman at 107 or 108, and you're going to either learn a big lesson there, or you're just going to say, oop, I whiffed, and, move along. Because that profile, man, talk about a profile that doesn't justify anywhere in the first round. I mean, that's it. That's the profile that's going in the first round that has no business being there.
Yeah. I mean, basically with Tyreek Hill, it's not like the Kareem Hunt situation. Kareem Hunt is a running back. That position is very easily replaced. And you can plug guys in. I mean, they did it last year with Damian Harris, and they got relatively similar production out of the running back spot. So, I mean, Tyreek Hill is a game changer at the wide receiver position, and it's not easy to find those guys in the NFL. So, I mean, listen, he's going to get suspended. We all know it. Like you said, if he gets 6 games, then he's coming back. And, at this point in time last year with Kareem Hunt, the Chiefs just cut him. Like, as soon as the news broke, the Chiefs cut him and dumped him. That just shows you how important he was to the offense. And like you said, they're still holding on to Tyreek. There's no further news. It's been like about a month now. We haven't heard any recent developments on the situation. And, the Chiefs are going to drag their feet and keep him on the roster as long as possible and maybe strike a deal with the NFL with Goodell. But I don't think they're going to cut Tyreek Hill like they cut Hunt. And if that's the case, and he's still on the roster with a 6-game suspension, like you said, you drafted Hardman in the top half of the first round or the middle of the first round, you got some explaining to do, because you never want to chase situation. I mean, AJ Brown is the perfect example of that, where I love AJ Brown. Everyone in the community loves AJ Brown. He's most people's wide receiver 1 or 1A, 1B. And he went to a just terrible situation, like the worst spot possible, going to the Titans offense where they hardly throw the ball. They've already got Corey Davis, and he's just, he's not going to have immediate production. But I'll take A.J. Brown over McCole Hardman every day, because that quarterback situation can change in an instant. And maybe they get a new offensive coordinator, who can develop Mariota, but I don't
Which they
know.
do this year. They do. They have a new offensive coordinator, so
Right.
it's yet to be seen.
So we don't know. I know we're all thinking they're going to run the ball in Tennessee, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So
Quick question from a philosophy standpoint, real quick while we're on the topic. Do you allow situation to impact you more positively or negatively? Like, does a good situation, is it more likely to boost the player up your board, or is a bad situation, like, what do you respond more to? A good situation
I
or
try not.
bad?
I try not to chase situations, and
See,
I missed out. I missed out on Kareem Hunt because that was a juicy situation, and I ignored it because of his profile. So I've swung and missed because I've turned a blind eye to situations, and I prefer the player over situations. And I've lessons learned. You learn every year playing Dynasty. We've been playing this for 20 years, and I'm still learning. But yeah, I'm going to take AJ Brown, who's not in a good situation, but a better player, over a guy like Hardman. So
yeah, and I'm with you. I go back and forth on this. I think I'll respond more to a negative situation in the early round. Like a guy like AJ Brown, I loved pre-process, but when he lands in Tennessee, and I love a guy like Corey Davis still, and the targets just, the volume's not there in the offense, and it's another new coordinator, and just all the pieces put together, I'm more likely to respond to a situation like that and push AJ Brown down my board than I am to respond to a guy like Mecole Hardman landing in KC in a juicy situation and chasing that and pushing him up my board. However, later in the rounds, it's all about situation for me.
yeah,
Um,
and
and
especially running back. Like if
yeah,
you're
100%.
talking wide receivers now, but when you're talking running back, the game changes. Like I'm throwing production and profiles out the window, and I'm chasing situation with running back because all they need is an opportunity, and you can be productive.
Yeah, it's one snap. So, real quick, let's just go into the last person I want to talk about, round one. And that's Marquise Hollywood Brown. And we weren't high on him. And I had even said coming into the process that he was off my board. I take that back wholeheartedly. And that's for one reason alone. He was the first wide receiver drafted by the NFL. And I'm seeing him go off the board at wide receiver 5, 6. I've even seen him as the 7th wide receiver selected in a rookie draft.
His ADP is currently 201.
It's crazy, and it's dropping. I mean, it's dropping rapidly. I've seen him go mid-second round. I've wide receiver 7 off the board, and he's the first wide receiver selected by the NFL.
Well,
I've seen Hakeem Butler, who was drafted in day 3, round 4, go ahead of the first wide receiver taken by the NFL. It's just
that's a tough one. That's a tough call because I love LJ and I love Butler, and we both were not high on Hollywood Brown, pre-draft process. So that would be a tough decision for me. I'd probably swing for the fences and go Hakeem Butler over Hollywood Brown. But let me throw another name at you in the mix here. Miles Boykin is going 31 overall in rookie drafts. Now, I'd rather have a guy like Miles Boykin on the Ravens and pay him 307 for Boykin as opposed to paying 201 for Marquise Brown.
In a vacuum, yes. In a vacuum, sure. Yeah, you want the cheaper poker chip. Boykin's very talented. You like Boykin more than I do. You're very high on Boykin, sure. I'm usually an advocate of going with the cheapest poker chip, but you're talking about a round 1 wide receiver and the first wide receiver taken off the board. If you can get that in the second round of a rookie draft as wide receiver 5 or later in a rookie draft, that's a no-brainer to me. And in that sense, I'd rather have Hollywood all day long. So, because they passed them, the same team passed on Boykin several times before they took him, and they took Hollywood with their first pick. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the NFL tells you so much in their draft capital, and you knew Hollywood was going round 1 because he was in the green room. But I assume that Hollywood going round 1, the way that people were infatuated with the speed, like it feels to me like Mecole has become the new where I expected Hollywood to be, right? Mm-hmm. Like Mecole is now the person that I'm totally avoiding because he's pure speed and people chasing a situation where I thought that would be Hollywood. Like I thought Hollywood would be going the 106, 105, 106, and that's why I completely took him off my board. And that's where he was going early in the draft process because he was the wide receiver 1 taken. And I understood why people were doing it, but it wasn't any price or point that I wanted to take. But you get into the second round now. I mean, even 111, 112, and you're talking wide receiver 5 off the board. Yeah,
okay,
that's a price I'm willing to take.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So who are guys? So I'm going to read off a few names here. You got Darrell Henderson, 202, his ADP.
I would take him over Henderson.
You would take Marquise Brown over Henderson?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm going the other way on that. Debo Samuel.
Oh, all day. And again.
Hollywood over Debo?
Yeah, and again.
Oh, man. I'm taking Debo. Okay. I'm just reading. We got some.
I told you Marquise is moving up my board because of the disrespect. And if I can get that kind of price point on him, I don't think he's a bad player. I really don't.
Are you moving him up your board, or are you just letting him fall with
right
ADP?
Now I have him.
And you're going to
right
take
now
him?
I have him at 9 on my board.
Wow.
Yep. I mean, look at the NFL draft pedigree. I've
got him at 9 too, but I've got. Who do you have above him? I've got Butler above him.
I do not.
Wow.
Nope. I have Harry, I have Metcalf, and I have Brown. Brown and Hollywood are in the same tier. AJ Brown and Hollywood are in the same tier for me.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
I'm not taking Isabella over him. I'm not taking J. Jaw over him. I'm not taking Hardman, Samuel, Campbell, Butler. I'm not taking any of those guys over the first wide receiver selected in the NFL draft. I'm not doing it.
But okay, so what about J. Jaw? Like J. Jaw is in a juicy situation.
I love J. Jaw in the middle of the second round. Sure.
He's been comped to Alshon Jeffrey already many times, and he's prototypically sized just like Jeffrey is, and on the same team as Jeffrey. So if Jeffrey, at 30 years of age, gets hurt again, he's going to slide right into that X role and play the Jeffrey role.
Still not doing it. Not over the number 1 wide receiver taken by the NFL.
That's interesting because
I've changed. I'm telling you straight up, I've changed my tune on it. Like, I knew where I was pre-processed, and it was that I was out on Hollywood and that I would have 0 shares, and I still do. I don't want to make it sound like I'm drafting him everywhere. But I also haven't had any opportunity to grab him. Like every time he's sitting there, he either goes the pick before me, and I'm like, I can't believe he's falling this far. Like I'm about to get Hollywood in the mid-second. He goes like the pick before me, or I just have my subset of players ahead of him, from 101 to 107 range that I'm just not taking Hollywood there. That's still my stance. I'm not taking Hollywood in that zone where I had originally anticipated him falling and where he was falling to begin the process. But now that he's sliding back, I find myself like I had a draft at 201 and he was sitting there, but I took Kyler Murray over him because I have Kyler Murray rated higher on my board. And I see Kyler Murray as more of a sure bet to be a game changer and a fantasy starter in my lineup than Hollywood. But if Kyler was off the board, it was probably Hollywood at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm definitely taking Kyler over him, but I'm also taking a couple of these wide receivers over him too.
I mean, here's my thing is I'm going to read down this list real quick. And, I just want to give people a reminder that are getting rookie fever. Don't trade your 2020 picks to get into this class. It's still not a great class. And, if you need to go back a couple years and look at the draft class of Bishop Sankey and all those guys and every first round pick missed, I want to remind people that a lot of these guys will not pan out. And you can run through this list and paint a picture for everyone. 101, Josh Jacobs didn't put up a major production profile in college. He's in a subpar offense in Oakland. I could see him flaming out. N'Keal Harry goes to the Patriots. Seems like a dream situation. Tom Brady retires. No one in there can disperse the ball, and he becomes fantasy irrelevant. Miles Sanders, it's Philadelphia. They have no idea what they're doing with running backs. They've proved that over the past couple of years. Does he ever get the chance to tote the full load? And will they even use him in the way he's best suited? Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, tight ends, first-round tight ends. I mean, do I have to say more? Detroit Lions and, Denver Broncos and their passing situation. A.J. Brown, he goes to Tennessee Titans. Is the volume there? Can he ever sustain a wide receiver 2 season, let alone a wide receiver 1 season? DK Metcalf, we talked about his boom bust profile. He could easily bust. Kyler Murray, he's 5'9" or 5'10", whatever. I still think it's a lie when you look at that picture that the NFL put out of the prospects. I mean, is the air raid sustainable? Does Cliff Kingsbury even hold on to a job? They just fired a coach after 1 year. Marquise Hollywood Brown, built on speed, subsized, completely subsized, shaky production profile. David Montgomery, I think the upside is limited. I don't think his game is going to translate. I think that he could be capped by Tarek Cohen and never be better than a wide receiver running back 2. What I'm saying is you can run down this entire list and tell a story for how each of these guys will flame out. It's not outside the realm of possibilities. So if I can get an upside shot like Hollywood or DK, I'm willing to take it more now than I was pre-process, because I don't think anyone in this class is a sure bet. And that's all that I wanted to point out, as we round up, round 1 of rookie ADP. Just hold with a vice grip those 2020 picks and keep yourself fluid and flexible, because it's just this class, you can tell a story for every single player.
Yeah, I mean, you are painting the worst case scenario picture for every player.
Of course I am, but you have to consider that stuff.
Yeah, I get it. And listen, I'm still high on Lamar Jackson. And last year, he was my number 1 ranked rookie quarterback because of that rushing. And, listen, fast forward to today, of course, Baker's better. Baker's won, but I still got LJ too. And I do think that they really did a great job of surrounding him with so many weapons, and they've got all those tight ends. They've got like 50 bazillion tight ends over there. They've got Justice Hill, who's receiving back, who's going to play that satellite role. Mark Ingram, they signed in free agency, and these 2 rookie receivers that they drafted. They did a really great job to surround him with some talent to chuck it, because here's the thing. He's not as bad of a thrower as people are making it out to be. He progressed every year in college, and he was a good passer last year. 2 years ago in college. So there's a false narrative going around about Lamar Jackson that he can't throw the ball, and that's just not true. He's a way better quarterback than what we saw last year, and he was thrown into a situation, and he was handed the reins to start, and they changed their game. And what did the Ravens say? We're going to just run the ball down your throat every week because we don't really have a game plan, because we thought Joe Flacco was going to be our quarterback. And that's pretty much what you saw last year. He was a deer in headlights most Sundays, but I think that he's going to progress massively this year. He's not going to light the world on fire, but he's going to be way better than what we saw. So with that said about Lamar Jackson, I like Hollywood Brown at his falling ADP. There's other guys that we talked about here that I would rather have, but if he continues to fall, and he is, I'm going to buy him. I'm going to pull the trigger at some point. So
I can't believe you're going to take a day 3 wide receiver over
which one?
Hollywood Butler.
Yeah, I can't let go of Butler. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with Matt Waldman, because
that's such a mistake.
I just love his profile, Butler. I love the tape, his metrics, and he dominated in college. He didn't just have one good year. He had a massive year. So it's not like this guy's like Cordarrelle Patterson when he came out, or, even DK Metcalf. He had better stats than Metcalf. So, and he's only putting it together. He's young. He had so much going on in his personal life. We all, some of us know the story. We won't get into it, but, he's only going to get better. But we're going to have to move on to round 2. But before we move on to round 2, we are excited. The NFLMAX is excited to announce our newest partnership with the fastest growing DFS prop style game on the planet, the official sponsor of the show, and that is Monkey Knife Fight.
You'll never know the simple joys of a monkey knife fight.
monkeyknifefight.com. You can pick your favorite players, choose an over-under on games, or take some head-to-head action in rapid fire. Listeners of the show get an instant 100% deposit up to $50 by using our promo code NFLMAX. That's NFLMAX. So check out monkeyknifefight.com, play games, win real money. And this week I'll be going to Baltimore to watch the Orioles and Yankees play. So I will be doing a few prop bets. And Nick, I know you played over the weekend. Did you have any success?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I won Saturday and Sunday. If you want to, just seems like a shameless pitch, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, I will be trying to post a MKF play of the day every day. Monkey Knife Fight is awesome. I didn't know about it prior to them reaching out for a potential sponsorship, but for our audience, I do like to dabble in gambling, and this is awesome. I mean, prop betting, it's really fun. The site is very user friendly once you figure it out. You just kind of pick a matchup, you pick a game, and then within that, there's several different types of games that you can play. Whether it's try to pick the guys who are going to have the most total bases, or you pick 3 guys and you have a goal of like 8.5 total bases. So you have to pick the 3 guys that you want to be on your roster, so to speak. So it's prop betting mixed with DFS, and it's a load of fun. I'm having a ton of fun doing it, and it's just a really great site. Super excited about the partnership. So again, that's promo code NFLMAX, all caps, NFLMAX. And, again, they'll match your deposit up to $50. And if you want to reach out with any questions, how to navigate the site, or if you're just interested in Monkey Knife Fight in general, feel free to slide into my DMs. And, I can give you a little pointers or direct you around the site, because it's been a fantastic experience for me as a user so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in this weekend. And I like playing the under overs on games, so that's fun.
Give it to him, boy. Give it to him. Thrust, parry, step. Oh, he ain't pretty no more.
Okay, so moving on to round 2. And I guess we'll stick with the theme here in Baltimore for a few more seconds here. Running back, Justice Hill. Current ADP is top half of your second round in rookie drafts. And we talked about him before on previous episodes. I love him. I mean, he's in my second tier of rookie running backs for this class. And in a PPR format, he's going to dominate. And, I know it's not, that great of a situation because you got Lamar Jackson back there who's going to rush the ball and take away carries. But, he's not, you got Mark Ingram there. So Mark Ingram's going to be the lead back. And I could see situations where they deploy Justice Hill all over the field as a wide receiver, as a satellite back. So currently top half of the second, he's going above Damian Harris. Oh no, they're tied actually. So what are your thoughts on Justice Hill? Would you rather have Damian Harris or Justice Hill?
Damian Harris in a landslide. Personally, really? Yeah, because I see the 3-down potential with Damian Harris. I just don't see it with Justice Hill. And there are guys that, I have 0 shares of Justice Hill, and I probably anticipate it staying that way. I don't hate the player. I like Justice Hill. I like the landing spot. I think he's going to be a player for Baltimore. I think he'll have a role, but I would rather Alexander Mattison over him.
Oh.
And he's consistently going over Madison.
I don't get the Alexander Mattison hype. I don't understand.
He's a day 2 running back in a situation behind Dalvin Cook, who's proven, in my opinion, minimal, and also proven that he can't stay healthy for a full year. So in my mind, Madison's upside is that of Latavius. And you know what? It's very well known on here why I love Latavius. I mean, this guy instantly lands in a 3-down role. Who's going to take that from him? Rock Thomas? I mean, nobody. He instantly lands in a 3-down role if Cook gets hurt. I mean,
you're talking about spot starts for dynasty purposes.
And when are you gonna start Justice Hill? I mean, he's depth.
Well, if he turns out to be like the Phillip Lindsay of 2019,
he's not going to be. Who's he going to take a role from? Mark Ingram? Mark Ingram's too proven.
He could still be on the field with Mark Ingram and be productive in a PPR. Alexander Mattison, you're banking on a Dalvin Cook injury.
That's best case scenario, Russ. That's best case scenario. And
no,
even
best
then,
case scenario is Mark Ingram goes down and they have nobody, and they got to give the ball to Justice Hill.
That's not true, though.
Yeah,
that's not true. They still have Gus.
Oh.
Gus is still on that roster, and Kenneth Dixon, by the grace of God, is still hanging on that roster. They still have talent there. Yeah, but that's a very talented running back core. You're telling me if Mark Ingram goes down, Justice Hill becomes the 3-down back? That's foolish.
No. But
That's what
he's
you're saying.
gonna get more opportunity. I mean, he's not gonna be a 3-down back. He's never gonna be a 3-down back.
Exactly. So what's the upside?
But neither is Alexander Madison.
What's the upside? Chris Thompson?
Well, yeah, but Chris Thompson in his day was a
for
top
1
5
year.
PPR back.
Yeah. So you want to just write off the 1 year Doug Baldwin had and say he was mediocre for his career, and then you want to talk about the 1 year that Chris Thompson had?
He got hurt,
and then he died, and he hasn't been back since.
Got hurt. They would have never drafted Bryce Love, and they probably would have never drafted
Bryce Love. Bryce Love is not going to fill that role. Bryce Love isn't a pass catcher. Now you're going rogue. You're going completely rogue.
We're sidetracking here.
You're going rogue.
Alexander Madison.
Yes, we are.
He's a pedestrian. His profile is pedestrian. He's got no speed. He runs a 4.67. He's got no agility. He's got no burst. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry in college. He didn't do anything. Alexander Madison, you're banking on a Dalvin Cook injury. And Dalvin Cook, when he was healthy, he looked explosive. So
we talk about this all the time on the show. What does day 2 pedigree mean for a running back?
Day 2 pedigree is very important.
Mm-hmm. And where did Alexander Madison get
the
pedigree?
Bottom of the 3rd round, right before the 4th round started.
So day 2.
Day 2, technically, but 339.
It's a beautiful landing spot. He gets day 2 pedigree. You think he wasn't flashy in college? Fine, but he did. His production profile was very nice.
He's a Jag. He's
Alfred
Blue.
Fine. I guess we just agree to disagree. But the upside, my point is the upside with Alexander Madison is significantly higher.
How could you
say
Justice
that
Hill? His profile is not even close to Justice Hill?
What is the upside of Justice Hill? What's the upside?
Justice Hill's profile is
Chris Thompson.
ridiculous.
We've just hammered down the upside of Justice Hill is Chris Thompson.
But he's got top 5 percentile elite attributes that Chris Thompson doesn't have.
Chris Thompson has, I mean, the handles on him, the handles, like the way he controls his movements and just the speed in and out of cuts that he has. I've never seen anyone run like the way Chris Thompson was 2 years ago. And I'm still sitting here saying that the upside is minimal with a guy like Justice Hill. It's Chris Thompson at the best.
Yeah, but Justice Hill is 21 years old. So we could be, best case scenario, okay, we'll do best and worst. We could be looking at Danny Woodhead in his prime at 21 years of age. And let's not forget Lamar Jackson needs to develop as a passer, so he's going to need a safety blanket. He's got those tight ends we know about, and he can be dinking and dunking to Justice Hill in a PPR format.
He could be, yeah, sure.
So, Dalvin Cook, if he stays healthy, you're not going to have anything to do with Alexander Madison. You're not going to be able to start him. He's going to be wasting a roster spot.
It's a 2nd round upside play.
Why can't he be an upside play?
Are you listening? Sometimes I think you completely. Are you listening? Mic check.
Mic check. Alexander Madison is better than Justice Hill.
I'm saying Alexander Madison's upside is significantly higher than Justice Hill.
It's only based on opportunity. You're only basing it on opportunity.
I'm basing it on a culmination of everything: his profile, his draft pedigree, and yes, his opportunity. We just talked about in the later rounds, 2nd and on, opportunity being very important when it comes to running backs. He's 1 snap away from a full load. Can you say that about Justice Hill? No, you can't. In any stretch of the imagination, you can't say that about Justice Hill with any kind of confidence. I can say with complete confidence that if Cook were to go down, Alexander Madison would be the number 2 back there in Minnesota. Why? Because he has the day 2 pedigree and he has a rounded out profile with nice production and solid metrics that check the boxes. He is without doubt number 2 running back in Minnesota, and I can't say that with any confidence in Baltimore that he would tote the load.
You also said the same thing about Royce Freudman last year with the Broncos.
Oh my gosh.
Royce Freudman was drafted at 307 by the Broncos, and he got supplanted by an UDFA named
for
Phillip
1 year.
Lindsay.
Just wait, give him a shot. It's been 1 year.
If you're banking on that quote unquote, day 2 late.
I'm not banking on it. I'm just saying it's an important piece of that profile.
Okay, but Royce Freeman's
it can't be ignored. Justice Hill doesn't have it, and
Royce
Alexander Madison
profile is one of an Alexander Madison type, where you're saying he can play all 3 downs.
And I still believe that he's going to take that role this year.
Okay.
I still believe it.
However, they drafted Royce Freeman to be the lead back, where Alexander Madison, they've already got Dalvin Cook. So, I mean,
yeah, but there is no I'm just missing your point here. It's apples to oranges because there's no one else on that depth chart other than Madison that's going to take that complete role. He's in no immediate danger whatsoever. Rock Thomas is not going to beat him for that 3-down role. If Cook goes down, the upside is immense. Immense. And that's what you're hoping to hit in the second round.
But again, you're banking on an injury. Where Justice Hill, you could start him any week in a PPR format as your flex running back.
Okay, let's revisit this at the end of the year, I'll make a bet. I'll make a bet with you right now. Let's say that there won't be more than above baseline. So what's the baseline for us? Running back 2?
Okay, how about this? Let's go by like starts. How many? That's
what I'm saying. But what's the baseline? How many times will he be above the baseline? I'm saying it's no more than 2.
No more than 2? I'll take the over on that.
Yeah, I know you will. Obviously,
I'm gonna call Zach and see if.
And what's the baseline?
Knifefight.com.
What's the baseline? Running back what overall for the week?
Overall for the season?
No, for the week. Because we're gonna go week by week. I'm gonna look at all 16 weeks and see when Justice Hill landed over. Let's say the baseline is running back 24. How many times is he above running back 24? That's the baseline.
I'll make this real easy for you. Justice Hill will outscore Alexander Madison at the end of the season, PPR points. He'll have more points than Alexander Madison.
Yeah, but Russ, what does it matter? So here's another philosophy question, and not to spend too much time on this because we've got to move, but at the same time, how often can you predict those weeks? Like, are you going to plug Justice Hill into your starting lineup every week? Because that seems like a negative EV move to me. Whereas when Dalvin Cook goes down, you're plugging in Alexander Madison 100%. Plug and play, no questions asked. You know he's getting a full role. You're not going to know that with Justice Hill. Will Justice Hill outscore Alexander Madison over the course of a year? Sure. Yeah, it's a possibility, but he's doing it over 16 weeks. Where if Alexander Madison accumulates all of his points in 3 weeks, there are 3 weeks he was in your starting lineup.
Yeah, I do think you can start Justice Hill in a PPR format as your flex with no problem if in a PPR. So you're going to get, you're waiting on a Dalvin Cook injury to spot start a guy for a few weeks.
All right, we just agree to disagree.
And just one last thing before we move on, because this is, the reoccurring theme here. You're wasting a roster spot. If you're a rebuilding team, you should not be wasting roster spots on these type players because you don't really want wins if you're rebuilding. You want early draft picks. So why are you going to waste a roster spot on a plug and play running back when he's going to help you get a few more wins in a spot start?
Because you flip him when the situation arises. Who's the most valuable asset commodity in dynasty football? It's the running back position.
Depends on the price you paid for him to get him originally, and he's currently going in the second round. Alexander Madison,
and not only to mention that though, Latavius had standalone value last year
for 3 weeks.
No, not for 3 weeks. Go back and look. Once we get off air, this is going to go in the outtakes because I'm going to rip you apart. Let's go. Let's move on. I'm done with this. You're so stubborn. This is like Hakeem Butler 2.0. The fact that you're taking a 4th round wide receiver above the 1st overall wide receiver selected by the NFL is madness. You're just very stubborn and hard-headed tonight.
No. Yep. I love Hakeem Butler.
Rigid Russ.
All right, so go ahead. Give me a player who you see on your list.
I want to just quickly talk about who my targets are in the second round of drafts and the order that they're in. My number 1 target is Damian Harris. And, we just had this whole discussion about backup running backs. But Damian Harris is a complete upside play for me. Right after him, I'm targeting Isabella, then Whiteside, and then shortly thereafter, I'm looking at Alexander Madison. And that's all just as far as the draft range that they go. I would have no qualms, potentially looking at any 4 of those players in any order. I think they're all in the same tier for me as far as my rookie board goes. I love all those guys. In fact, I probably have, Harris, Madison, and then probably Isabella in a tier. And then there's a little bit of a tier break with J-Jaw underneath. I can mix any of the top 3 up with J-Jaw sitting right below that. But that's my subset of players. Other than those guys, if those guys are gone, I'm not really looking at anyone else in that second round. I mean, you've seen some of these, wide receivers fall, like Hollywood. Obviously, if he's there in the second round, I said I'd take him. Kyler Murray, if he's there in the second round, I'm strongly considering him based on the outlook of my team. But other than that, I mean, I don't love Hardman if he's there early second round. I don't like Samuel. Paris Campbell is not making it there anymore. Darrell Henderson is likely gone by that point. Hakeem Butler, I want nothing to do with Hakeem Butler in the second round of rookie drafts. Justice Hill, he just kind of falls in the middle of those four guys that I was talking about. So I'll probably end up with no shares because I'd rather have Madison over Hill. Where are you at in the second round as far as your subset of guys?
Well, guys that I'm avoiding, to piggyback off that, Devin Singletary, I'm avoiding in all my drafts. He's going 207 or 8 right now, just like David Montgomery in the early first. I'm avoiding Montgomery. I'm avoiding Singletary. But guys that I like here, I like Irv Smith Jr. for your late second round, especially, the rumor is they're going to trade Kyle Rudolph. So, but even if they don't, he's going to learn from one of the best tight ends in the biz. And he'll be good to go for next year. So I don't mind taking rookie tight ends in the bottom half of the second round. I do mind taking them early in the first, which is where Hawkinson and Fant are going. I'm not going to do that. But taking a swing on Irv Smith in the late second, I'm all in on that. We talked about Justice Hill, Damian Harris. I'm, green light on that as well. I love J-Jaw where he's going. He's a steal. J-Jaw at the late second round is an absolute steal. I got him in a few drafts already. And you're talking about a guy who's going to play the Alshon Jeffrey role next year, and he could easily play this year if Jeffrey gets hurt. Plus, that offense is killer.
Wait, you mean are you banking on an injury?
Let's not get crazy. So that's pretty much it for second round. Let's move on to the third round. You've got guys like Drew Lock going in the top half of the third, Deontay Johnson. I want nothing to do with these guys.
No, nothing. No, I agree. Those two guys are completely off my board.
Yeah, but I love Miles Boykin. He's going in the middle of the third. I think that's a steal. Kelvin Harmon is falling, and at some point I'm going to be a buyer, even though I don't like his profile. But if he continues to fall late third, early fourth, I'm a buyer. I'm just reading the list here. Bryce Love.
All day.
Bryce Love is a target for me in the third round. And because we just don't know what's going on in Washington. We know Adrian Peterson is donezo. This is probably his last year in the NFL. Chris Thompson, his contract is over after this year. And an injured Darius Geis, who actually have some good reports this week. They're saying he's good to go. So that's hopeful for Darius Geis. But, if he gets hurt again, forget it. And, the Redskins, I'm going to assume they're going to put Bryce Love on the IR or redshirt him for this year. They're not going to use him. They don't need to. They can run Adrian Peterson into the ground. And he'll be a nice target player for next year if you can, let him sit on your taxi squad or on the back end of your roster. So Bryce Love's a target for me in the third. And there's some other players here that are in the fourth I won't mention yet. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just kind of hammering running back here, and my running back values have been all over the board because you don't really know where people stand on these running backs when it gets to the third or fourth round. So for me, it's just kind of next man up on the list. And, Bryce Love comes number one for me as far as the third round target. I'm with you on that one. I like Benny Snell in the situation he's in, Mike Weber in the situation he's in, Darwin Thompson, I think, could potentially be a player. Dexter Williams, we're getting into some of those fourth round guys, but back into the third round, I'm not afraid to pull the trigger on those guys. If it's a luxury pick for me, and I'm sitting there and I was one of the better teams from last year, I'm sitting in the 10, 11, 12 range. Those guys, I'm not afraid to take them. One thing I'm trying to get better at as a dynasty owner is just, sticking to the board kind of, and, just not getting cute and trying to work too much and, just take the next guy up. When you're in the late third, when you hit the third round and the fourth round, you want your guys. You want the guys that you believe in. And, there you're quibbling over a couple spots and not much capital. Like, what's the juice that you're going to get out of that? So I've kind of just, especially in the third and the fourth this year, trained myself to sit and pick. And if I see value fall down the board, I'm not afraid to get back in. But really, for that to occur, it's got to be a guy that I could see a real potential for sitting on the number two on his depth chart. Someone like a Mike Weber, maybe even a Benny Snell. I'm not sold on Jalen Samuels being the surefire number two there in Pitt. And I know you don't like Benny Snell, but I could see a situation where he does end up with the number two job. So,
yeah,
those guys are all, and I know you said you were going to wait for fourth round targets, but I'm going to kind of mix all those guys in. And then one guy people are sleeping on is Terry McLaurin. And, I continually see Harmon go over McLaurin. And McLaurin was a day 2 pick. He went almost 4 rounds ahead of Kelvin Harmon. And it's kind of like a Hakeem Butler situation. I've seen him drafted over Isabella. It makes no sense to me. Just doesn't make any sense. I can't justify doing it. So, when it comes to the 3rd round, as far as a wide receiver goes, I don't typically take wide receivers that late in the draft. It's usually for me, number 1, a running back, and number 2, I'll consider a tight end if one I really like has fallen that far. But, wide receiver and quarterback typically in that range are not getting game changers. But Terry McLaurin as a day 2 pick in a wide open depth chart there in Washington, he's kind of been my guy, like in that late 3rd round range if he's still sitting there.
And you've got to love that chemistry he's had in Ohio State with Dwayne Haskins. So that's going to bode well for him in preseason, in training camp. I think it's pretty safe to say we'd probably both agree on this, that this is just one of those drafts where if you don't have a top 3 to 4 pick, just move down. I mean, I couldn't believe in one of my drafts, Miles Sanders, who's my number 2 overall rookie this year, fell all the way to me at 107. But if he was not there, I was going to move down, and just accumulating multiple 3rd and 4th round picks and maybe parlaying that into maybe a 2020 second round, but moving down, having multiple picks in those late rounds where you can just take shot after shot on all these players that we're talking about here. Miles Boykin, we talked about Bryce Love already, but then, Terry McLaurin, like you said, I'm going down the list. I'm not really a fan of Riley Ridley. He's going in the 4th, but I'm willing to take some shots on these wide receivers in the 3rd round and have multiple guys as opposed to one guy in the late 1st or one guy in the top half of the 2nd. So yeah, that would be my strategy for this year. All right. So that'll be it for the show for this week. And just got a couple of special thanks here for the listeners. Wanted to give a shout out to my boy Craig at We Got Ice, and you can find him on Instagram _we_got_ice_ for some baseball apparel. Craig, what's up? And also wanted to give a special thanks and shout out to the DLF Forum, who was so kindly to me last week as I was on there talking some Dynasty football, in particular USPS 33, and a shout out to DLF Mike H and also Zach from MKF at Monkey Knife Fight. Special thanks to all you guys out there. And you can contact the show at TheNFLMAX@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at NFLMAX. Nick is on there, Hot Pineapples FF, and you can find me at Ewok Juggernaut. So again, thanks for everybody out there for listening and for subscribing. And please share the link if you can and spread the word. And that'll be it for this week. We'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody, for the Hot Pineapples. Ewok Juggernauts here. Everybody one clap. Thanks, guys.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
You got me all fired up, man.
Obviously, you got me fired up.
You are an idiot, though, just so you know.
No, you're an idiot.
You're an
wasting
idiot.
a roster spot on a guy who's going to play 2 games for you.
Oh, my gosh. Oh.
You're the worst. Is that what they say?
What?
A happy wife is a happy life?
Yes.
Well, in
Yep.
my world, a happy Russ is a happy us. So, no kidding. We got T-shirts made and everything.
What's up?
Gentleman's Jack.
That's right. I'm back with Gentleman's Jack.
We're going to crush that league, bro.
So real quick, let's hammer out our bet. What's the baseline?
All right, what do you got?
Running back what? 24? So why he has to be running back 2 to really count?
So running back 2, you're talking about, 20 top 24 PPR back.
Yep, top 24 PPR back. I'm saying he has no more than 2 weeks.
No more than top 24 performances.
Yep, no more than 2 top 24 performances.
17 weeks in the season.
Yep.
I'm taking the over on that.
Okay.
If he has 2, it's a wash. We both lose, and if he has 1, you win.
I said no more than 2. I get 2. The line is 2 even.
2, so 2.5. You're saying?
Yeah, 2.5. You're taking the over.
I'm still taking the over.
You look like you're starting to sweat a little bit. You balking?
Not at all, bro.
Get a little nervous?
Not at all.
Well, look, this one's going in pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have a pen.
See, I'm glad you got an eraser there because you're going to want to fudge that up and erase.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm taking the over on that all day. I mean, Nick, come on. We're talking about a PPR here. You've seen what guys like Alvin Kamara did coming out of the get-go, and nobody liked Alvin Kamara.
Russ, oh my gosh,
nobody liked Alvin Kamara when he was a rookie.
He is not Alvin Kamara.
He's not Alvin Kamara?
You are out of your mind. Are you?
Dude.
What did you drink tonight?
What did I drink? I had some Game of Thrones red wine.
Oh, yeah. That stuff's probably 5 years old, isn't it? From the beginning of the show?
Yeah, 26.
That's probably why it went bad.
You went bad.
Even that wine soured over the finale.
Oozing. No, Justice Hill is not Alvin Kamara, but he's going to play that role. And I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to be sitting there dinking and dunking. I think you're missing the boat here on Justice Hill. And it's not like he's a plotter. This guy is an absolute top 5 percentile athletic beast. Let me read you real quick.
Oh my God. Here we go. Go ahead.
Let me read you his profile here. It's not like he's Royce Freeman where he's a plotter.
I got like 2 hours of sleep, so this is exactly what I need to put me in bed.
Exactly. You're going to listen to the beautiful tones and sounds of my voice.
Why do I have to listen to you, but you don't have to listen to me?
Because you talk more than me on the podcast anyway, so whatever. Listen to the soothing sounds of Russell talk about Justice Hill and his 4.0 flat 40-yard dash and his height-adjusted speed score that is well above average in the top percentile. Then you go over to his burst, 130 broad. That's top 5 percentile. His vert was 40 and his burst was 133. You're talking about elite metrics. Okay, fine. He only had a 5.7 yards per carry in college, but that was his yards per carry. What about his yards after the catch? 5'10". Okay, I'll give you that he's sub 200. That's a red flag, but he's not going to be carrying the ball as a lead dog. He's going to be doing his Alvin Kamara type things and Philip Lindsay type things in the role. So, I mean,
I'm going to go on RotoViz and comp him out.
If Philip Lindsay can come out last year and be a PPR satellite back like
Stop with Philip Lindsay. His stock isn't even held and he didn't do anything wrong.
Because he was an undrafted free agent. Justice Hill went in the 4th round.
And so, I hate to break it to you, so did Tony Pollard.
And that's another name. Why? How come everybody's talking about Mike Weber just because he's got some good metrics, but nobody?
Because he can instantly be the number 2 running back.
But Dallas didn't think that. Dallas took Tony Pollard in the 4th round.
Yeah, with something very specific in mind.
Yeah, backing up Zeke. Mike Weber.
You are out of your mind, dude. You're out of your mind.
Everybody's on Mike Weber's dick, and he might not even make the roster.
He's a 4th round rookie pick. What are you talking about?
Everybody's talking about Mike Weber.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's talking about him. Just
who is everybody?
I mean,
whenever you say everybody, I don't know. Me? Like,
no. All these podcasts are talking about him for late round sleepers, and they're not mentioning
what pick was. I gotta get this conversation over with. What pick was Justice Hill overall? Overall.
4.11. I have no idea. 4.11.
I didn't want to do research tonight.
Go to Wikipedia. Hold on, I'll go to Wikipedia. Hold on.
I'm going. 113. Let's see.
I love Justice Hill.
Want to know who his number one comp is?
Number one.
Alvin Kamara.
Boom. What did I
I'm
just
kidding.
say?
He's not even on his comp list.
You're such a
Jeremy Langford. This is with his pedigree and his production and his metrics. Langford, Lamar Miller, Denard Robinson, Joe Williams, David Wilson, Marlon Mack, ooh, Ronnie Hillman, Tevin Coleman, ooh, Trey Mason, and
wow.
Lache Seastrunk.
Seastrunk was a freak at the combine. You just named like 3 or 4 guys that I
keep
loved.
going. I expanded the list. So let's see when Alvin Kamara pops up. Paul Perkins, Devonta Freeman, Chris Thompson, Wayne Gallman, Mark Walton, Bernard Pierce, TJ Logan, Kerryon Johnson, Edwin Baker, Cameron Artis Payne, Kelvin Taylor, Jamal Williams, comps better than Alvin Kamara, Andre Ellington, Jonathan Franklin, Sony Michel, Ronald Jones, comps better than Alvin Kamara. I mean, Kamara doesn't even show up on this list. Mike Gillislee, Naeem Hines, Alex Collins, Ryan Williams, Wendell Smallwood, Kerwin.
He's going to play an Alvin Kamara role.
Alvin Kamara is nowhere on his 50 comp list.
He's not Alvin Kamara.
You just compared him to Alvin Kamara.
He's going to play that role that Kamara played.
And you say it's just. My point is, they're not the same. You can't just say because he's going to play that role, he's going to have the same production. They're not the same.
No, I never
person.
said he would have the same production. We're talking about an RB2, and you're talking about over Alexander Madison, who's a pedestrian Alfred Blue Jag running back.
You're
you waste a roster spot on a guy like this, and you're rebuilding. You're killing your team. To get 1 or 2 spot starts.
You're the worst. Hang on.
Just trade him to the guy who owns the running back. Murray.
You know who pops up on this list? Comp list for Madison? TJ Yeldon, John Kelly, Kerryon Johnson, Devonta Freeman, Carlos Hyde, James Conner. Now you know why I love Alexander Madison.
Now you know why. I hate all those guys and you love those guys. Sign me up. Carlos Henderson 2.0. Let's go. And honestly,
too much fun tonight, Russ. Too much fun.
You named 4 or 5 guys on that list. David Wilson, Trey Mason, the other guy before David Wilson. Like all those running backs, I loved coming out of college.
And what happened to him?
Well, they got hurt.
Okay, and he's sub 200. Those guys weren't even sub 200.
I know. David Wilson was a beast. If David Wilson would have never did backflips in the end zone, he might still be playing today.
Or fumbled. I mean,
that was
had something to do with it too.
Coughlin destroyed David Wilson's career on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys.
Well, this has been fun. This was a fun episode.
Yeah, good episode.
One clap, one clap, one clap.